Leo and Ben were two real estate investors who specialized in government surplus property. Their latest major acquisition was a large, remote section of a decommissioned Air Force base bought at a federal auction for a surprisingly low price. The land was valuable, but the sale included one specific liability: Hangar 5, a massive, heavily reinforced steel structure that had been completely sealed shut since 1965. Military records simply stated the hangar was secured pending asset disposal. The assumption was that it contained old filing cabinets or obsolete machinery, but the cost of breach and removal was high, which is why the lot was cheap. They secured the perimeter and hired a specialized industrial crew. The hangar doors were not simply locked, they were welded shut, then reinforced with thick concrete blocks placed over the original mechanism. It took the crew 3 days of constant work with thermal lances and diamond saws to breach the initial seal. Finally, the massive outer steel door was pushed open a few feet. The air that rushed out was cold, dry, and surprisingly chemical, carrying the faint scent of aviation fuel and preservation agents. Inside, the hangar was vast, dark, and perfectly preserved. The initial light revealed only the shadowy emptiness of the enormous space, but as they activated their industrial floodlights, the true contents became visible. The hangar was not empty. In the center, under a massive, floor-to-ceiling white tarp, sat a huge, unconventional shape. It was unmistakably an aircraft, but its size and unusual profile suggested it was not a standard fighter jet or bomber. It was a prototype. They cautiously approached the object. The air inside the hangar felt unnaturally regulated, suggesting an active climate control system had somehow remained operational or sealed for decades. The interior walls were lined with specialized, padded shelving containing sealed equipment crates and documentation. This hangar was a deliberate, controlled environment, a time capsule for a top-secret project. They pulled back the massive tarp, and the sight left them speechless. It was a stealth reconnaissance jet with radical wing designs and advanced composite materials that looked decades ahead of its time. Tucked under the nose cone, they found a small metallic plaque engraved with the words "Project Nightingale, Status Secure, Do Not Open." This was a classified military project. The jet was a relic of the height of the Cold War, a technological asset that had been hidden and forgotten. The immediate realization was clear. The hangar was cheap not because it was empty, but because the government had forgotten what they had sealed inside their own asset disposal lot. They had bought land containing a multi-million-dollar classified military secret. They knew they couldn't touch the aircraft. The next step was calling the Department of Defense. The call to the Department of Defense, DoD, was the most surreal conversation of their lives. After initially being dismissed by automated systems, the mention of Project Nightingale and Hangar 5 triggered an immediate, high-priority response. Within hours, the airbase was swarming with federal agents and military intelligence personnel. Leo and Ben formally signed over physical control of the hangar and its contents, cooperating fully with the investigative team. The hangar was immediately resealed, now guarded by armed military personnel. The DoD confirmed the plane was a highly experimental, advanced reconnaissance prototype developed in the late 1950s. Project Nightingale was deemed too complex and expensive to continue, but its stealth technology was so critical that the physical prototype and all documentation were ordered to be permanently secured rather than destroyed or declassified. The team assigned to decommission the airbase simply sealed the hangar and filed a report stating the contents were secured. The hangar was then inadvertently included in the asset sale decades later, a massive bureaucratic blunder. The aircraft itself was an engineering marvel, containing materials and sensor technology that were still considered advanced. Its value to the U.S. Air Force was immeasurable as a historical and comparative asset. The military's initial stance was that the contents were military property and the investors were owed nothing. But Leo and Ben's attorney argued strongly that the federal government had legally sold the land, including the fixed structure, the hangar, and its contents to them, making the aircraft and the documentation legally their property under the terms of the auction contract. The discovery was a legal nightmare for the DoD. They could not allow the plane to leave the hangar, be seen, or be studied by civilians. The only viable solution was to repurchase the hangar and its contents at a price that reflected the plane's true classified value. The negotiations began immediately, held under the strictest security protocols. The twins' leverage was absolute. They owned the box holding the secret. They focused their valuation on the advanced, non-nuclear composite materials used in the airframe and the revolutionary sensor technology detailed in the documentation crates. The documents contained the original design schematics and test flight data for the Nightingale. The price had to reflect the value of repossession and the immense cost of rectifying the public relations and security fiasco. The final price had to be life-changing.
The negotiation with the Department of Defense lasted 6 tense weeks. The military was willing to pay a massive premium for total silence and immediate legal transfer of the hangar and all contained intellectual property. They finally reached an agreement. The DoD would repurchase the hangar, the land immediately surrounding it, and all of the aircraft, documentation, and equipment contained within Hangar 5. The final monetary settlement paid to Leo and Ben for the immediate and absolute legal transfer of Hangar 5 and Project Nightingale was an astronomical $40 million USD. The money was paid swiftly, accompanied by an extensive, classified non-disclosure agreement that legally prevented the twins from revealing the technical details of the aircraft. The cheap airbase lot they had purchased became the source of a massive fortune, paid for by the federal government itself. The military immediately mobilized a massive operation. The hangar was permanently sealed, and specialized teams were brought in to dismantle and transport Project Nightingale to a secured, classified location. The once-abandoned airbase lot was removed from civilian control and returned to military jurisdiction under a new permanent security classification. The government had quietly and expensively covered up its 60-year-old mistake. Leo and Ben used their massive windfall to move entirely out of speculative real estate and into funding advanced technological startups, investing their capital back into the type of revolutionary technology they had briefly owned. They kept the original receipt for the airbase lot purchase, the low-price proof of the government's colossal oversight. The hangar they bought for scrap and the experimental jet sealed within gave them more than financial freedom. It gave them a view into the hidden complexities of history. The secret project left behind for 60 years was truly worth millions, and they were the only two civilians who ever saw it whole. If you liked the video, consider to drop a like and subscribe. Thanks for watching our incredible journey.